behave like a means a real human. So let's start discussion about animal welfare. So first coming to the legislation. As Dr. Chini Krishna I pointed out, our legislation is a copy from the British law, that is Prevention of Cruelty to 1960. Actually, legislation is laying the foundation of very much basic. It is not telling the optimal. Legislation may say, okay, house in such and such means the place you can house the animal, but it's not telling the other things, that how could be the air, how could be the humidity, how could be the things. So basically legislation is very basic, and we have to go to the optimal, and for knowing the what is optimal, we have to understand the behavior of the animal so that we can really know. And usually most of the time, even if we have the legislation, we always end up with the poor welfare. Now comes what our legislation says. Prevention of cruelty to animals says to avoid unnecessary pain and suffering. The pain is always unnecessary. It is very difficult to prove in the court of law what is necessary and what is unnecessary. So there is a very famous case of Fort Village which was there in the Cambridge in 1899. But you can put any case which is of the related to animal welfare. How do you decide whether it is necessary or unnecessary? If you see the people who are doing animal experiment, they think the animal experiment is for them is very necessary. And if you see the ethical people, they say, oh, this is waste. Okay? So what are the things that we can take into consideration when we say it is necessary and unnecessary? In this case, farmer have to transport the cattle from somewhere to the London for slaughtering, and he chopped off the horns of the cattle and transported them to the slaughterhouse. And in slaughterhouse, the inspector said, no, you have done necessary suffering to the animal. What do you think? Is it necessary or unnecessary? I am asking question, is it necessary or unnecessary? Necessary? Unnecessary. Yes, of course it is necessary, but how do you define it? In the way of law, when anything comes as a dispute and goes to the court of law will always say word to word what is written in the law, including the definition what is animal. You may consider whatever the animal, but what is written in the law book is the important. As it was pointed out, anything other than human in our context is written in law, but it is not same in the British law. They are excluding many things. Like in US, mice is not not covered into Animal Welfare Act. So basis for deciding this one, we have to consider 3 points. Okay? So you consider that a farmer have chopped down the horns. Did animal suffer? Yes or no? Yes. So please don't be mute, not be in the muted mode. Animal suffered? Yes. Was it necessary? Is this person who have chopped off the horns is mentally sound? No. No or yes? No, no, it's very important, because if you are not mentally sound, no law applies to you. This is called as mens rea. So in the court of law, if somebody says he is not mentally sound, so nothing will be applicable to him, he can do. So do you think this man is mentally sound or okay? Yes, because he is talking about the profit. So if you put everything in this framework, is there a suffering? Is this necessary? Is somebody who is doing this is mentally sound or not? Then you can decide the suffering is necessary or unnecessary, including your experiment, those who are you doing in NDRI or other places. Okay? So this is the basically legislational point of view. We have already discussed this. What is welfare? Whenever we discuss welfare in anywhere in part of the world, including India, people consider that we are going to get something free or subsidy, free cycle, free motorcycle, or free this. But that is the real misnomer. Welfare is not free. Welfare is science. And that is why I emphasize ISAE presence in India. Behavior and welfare is basically science, to really understand what particular person or a animal needs. Somebody asked a question in the morning about the elephant. So simply we can ask what animal need, ask the animal, not you decide as a human. That is the biggest disaster. We consider we know everything. Animals are different. They include both extent to failure to cope and ease of difficulty in coping. Either animal will lose or they will cope. If they will cope, they will survive. If they will not, they will have the behavioral sign or animal welfare sign. Coping is having both mental and bodily stability. This is another grave area. We always consider, as sir have pointed out in the morning, elephant was fatty. It is not only bodily, mental. Okay? If somebody put me in Tihar jail and they are giving morning tea, evening tea, breakfast, lunch, dinner and yoga, will that not be good for me? Yes or no? What I am lacking there? Mental control. So most of the time we chain the animal and we think we are doing everything for the animal because we are providing water, we are providing, no. Mental control is extremely important and then we forget. Physical thing is only small component. So it is both having the mental as well as bodily stability. Welfare always refer to the living animal. If it is dead, no welfare first. Welfare is science, and if you are protecting animal, that is animal protection. Animal protection and welfare is totally different. If you save some animal from butcher or slaughtering house, that is animal protection, not welfare. Welfare is to understand and provide the same. Okay? So be clear in that one. Don't use this word interchangeably. Animal protection is something humans do. Animal welfare, animal well-being is also different. Animal welfare means for a long time. Animal well-being, very short time. So I am taking care of you for one day. So your well-being is good or bad? Good. If you go to your home and your family is not taking care, your welfare will be depending on your family circumstances. Those who are married, depending on their wives. Okay? How to measure welfare? Again, I said welfare is science. You can measure that. You can prove that in the court of law as evidence. How do you do that? Like physiological indicators. Physiological indicators means if you bring a snake in front of me, what will happen to me? My heart rate, blood pressure, everything goes up. These are the physiological parameters. You can measure with the animal. If you approach the animal, how do they feel? So I will give you an example. Behavioral indicators. Sometimes that's like you go to the this temple and you will find elephant like this. You may be thinking he's praying. He's not praying. It is a stereotypic behavior which is a sound proof that animal is welfare is good or bad? Bad. Poor. So you need no proof thereafter if you see the stereotypic sign. Extent to which bodily strongly preferred behavior means I prefer which places, that is the preference test, on that we can decide. So there are variety of things which Dr. Arvind Sharma have pointed out, cortisol level. But cortisol level have to be complemented with other parameters like behavioral also. Cortisol level is high, not always indicator, but behavioral if you will combine, that is a solid state proof that welfare is not really good. So these are the some of the points which indicate that welfare can be measured and welfare can be proved, not welfare can be only taught. Next things that you can see the bodily, this pig in this crate, sow crate, and they are biting this always. It's a clear-cut sign that they are not having good welfare. The dog which is not taking any interest and sleeping in the corner is also indicator the welfare is poor. I have already discussed the welfare is science. It is not something which can be proved through any other way, but you have to prove it through validated experiment, not otherwise. Or you prove it or you disprove it. This is wrong or right. Why should we do welfare? We are gathering here and we are doing human welfare, eating well and all sitting in the very good environment. But people outside say, kya baat kar rahe ho aap to? Human is also suffering and you are talking about animal. This is common question if you go and people will ask. So why should we do welfare? Because most of the time we think what is good for man is also good for animal. That is most not good idea at all. Animal have their own requirement. Anthropocentric views are not considered good because what is liked by us is not liked by everybody. What you like, your wife may not like. Okay? We all are different. But when it comes to the animal, we generalize. When it comes to human, we are very specific. We are calling personalized medicine. But on the animal part, we say all animals are equal. So almost all ability reported in primate can also be found in fish. Those who are considering fish as a like a vegetable, fish is considered to be as intelligent animal as like primate. They have very high evaluation power, like blowfly can come and sit and they fly back, considering us that we are not responding to the stimuli. They can also discriminate what is dangerous and what is not. They are also very innovative, like a crow. Crow, if have a piece of bread, they will put into the sea, and if fish will come, they will eat the fish, not the bread. And they will again use the bread for picking up the fish. So these innovative experiments have proven the different complexity of animal brain. Also the capabilities. So I'm asking you a question. There is a group of heifer who are getting direct access to the food. There is a group of heifer, they have to break something and then they have access to the food. Okay? So you people are attending the conference, then you have access to the food. And somebody who can directly have access to the food, which group will be more happy? Which one? Without doing or with doing something? Without doing. You see, this is what we think. But heifer, if you measure the heifer behavior, the heifer which we have to do something, and if they have access to the food, they are founding, they jump and they have the food. It means they want to do something. So our understanding of animal is not always right. We have to ask the animal what they like. They have the feeling and emotions. And this, in laboratory animal size, I see very commonly that I want to take the small piece of the mice, this tail, I want to do SNP genotyping. And they take the, with the scissor, they cut the tail. Do you think it's painful or not? But they always say the mice do nothing. They start eating after a few moments. Because not every animal have the same way of expressing pain. And these animals, especially the rat and mouse, they are the prey animal. So they have always have the fear that they will be, if they create a noise, they will be inviting the trouble. Okay? If I have something, I will be getting the help. If mouse creates something, will they get the help? No. They will get this, in fact, not the help, but something else. Okay? So in that way, the way of expression of pain in animal is totally different. Like in sheep, even if you do the muzzling operation, they don't express the way we express, we cry. But if you measure their pain receptor parameter, if they measure their cortisol, if you measure how they walk, they are deeply into the pain. So they have the feeling and emotions. If you put acetic acid into the mouth of fish, and thereafter you give the morphine, the sign of pain which comes with acetic acid always disappear when you give morphine. It means they do feel pain. But do we understand this behavior? No. Because we don't know how fish talks. But fish will have the behavior which is totally not understandable by us. We may understand the behavior of the dogs. Like in one experiment, there was one dog. And dog was told that there is a food, but you should not eat this food. Owner walked away and came back. Animal have taken the food. And when the owner came back, the heart rate and all the parameters show that animal have felt kind of a guilt. So such complex behavior and feeling and emotions are there in animal. So we should really care. We should think, at least as a vet, as a ethologist, as a people, we should understand that they are also having same kind of emotion. Welfare is not always same. What I need today may not be I need the same thing in the 10 years down the line. That is also thing which if you have a cow which is pregnant or which is given the birth, their requirement change. But our mindset, we always give the same thing which is either before or after. So the welfare needs change with the life stages. Also the genetic manipulation that we are doing, especially in broiler and dairy cattle. Broiler we used to grow to the weight of 2 to 2.5 kg in 35 days, or earlier it used to grow in 12 weeks. Now we have all this leg problem and sneeze and hocks and all this, you have the issues and pains and also swollen joints because of these reasons. So this genetically modification of the chicken as well as this dairy cows, which are producing more and more, is also having welfare implications. Example, that how do we calculate this welfare of the animal, that if you have a sheep and if you approach that sheep, I mean sheep means in Hindi we call it is bhed, don't consider my sheep as like that sheep because of my pronunciation, but you can see that when it is being approached by a man, the heart rate is plus 50. So it means they don't like presence of man. But when the same man is along with the dog approach the same sheep, the heart rate goes very high. So presence of man with a dog to a sheep is not considered at least good by the animal. So these things can be a real proof, yes, how do we calculate? Even if we have to do some experiment which is ethically acceptable, we should care that the suffering should be as little as possible. The intensity may be high, but the time should be as little or less as possible. This is indicated by this. Do we all feel same? So during my training program, we have collected the data from veterinary and different students. Veterinarian most of the time feel welfare is nothing but animal is healthy, welfare is taken care. So this is clear-cut seen that they don't feel mental kind of a thing is really required. If animal is healthy, that's all. Welfare is taken care. But if you consider physical and natural, and with the other kind of a student like biotechnology student or other, they do consider that it's not only health, but also the other requirement which is mattering for the welfare of the animal. So this idea is also not very good, that we consider what is required is only health. And health is the only welfare issue. Why do we do welfare? Because better welfare equal better production. And this is known to a farmer. Farmer is a great scientist than most of us. And I will prove that welfare is aligned always with the morality. If you ask why do we welfare, because if you take your buffalo to the pond, the milk production will be high. The farmer knows this, that if you keep a buffalo tied up in a place and if you let buffalo and go and swim into the pond that in locally called as jhod, their production level is more than in condition which is in tied up condition. So it is directly related. They may not speak the sophisticated English word what we are speaking, but they know that if you provide what is required and needed by animal, the animal production will be high. Extrinsic value means milk production. Intrinsic value means what animal need. So a farmer knows in Haryana कि भैया भैंस को अगर झोड़ में ले जाओगे तो दूध बढ़िया देगी और उसको मक्खियों से भी तंग होने से बच जाएगा. This is welfare. You can say in very complicated words. And welfare of all animals are totally different. It is not that buffalo feel happy in pond, then pig will also feel happy in the pond. Pig will feel happy because they have, when they need snouting behavior or rooting of behavior, if they can have access, if you will let pig to stay in this room, they will not like it. It's good for us, but not for other animals. So it is important that we provide what is needed by animal, so that what animal provide to us will always be good. And this equally holds true in science. That animal which are housed in cage, if you take care of them, the data will come is more reproducible. That I will also show you in the experiment. This is the dog experiment. Earlier, we used to keep the dog in the slings, all four legs and completely tied up, no movements. And you do pharmacokinetic and dynamic study, taking blood. These studies were not reproducible. But if you let the animal go and walk outside, take animal, but let him go out and walk in some perches or somewhere inside the tunnels, and then you take the blood, that study is more reproducible. So this is welfare, and this is directly applicable, and this is also helpful for us. But it is not fitting into our mind, because another issue is the pain. We feel that whatever we feel pain in the same way, animal also feel pain, and they should also express in the way that we express. But that is not a good idea. Animals do not understand the source of pain usually, and when they don't understand the source, they cannot rationalize that what will happen. If I have the pain, I know that you will take me to the hospital and I'll get the injection, all right. But animals don't rationalize in that way that it will be over by some time, and their whole life may become very painful. Another issue is that usually in veterinary science, anesthesia the teaching is mostly considered to be only restraining chemical agent, not as a pain reliever or something like that. We consider animal is not controlled, give anesthesia. But that is also important that we consider that anesthesia is not only restraining but also analgesic, so that animal should not feel pain. This is something which in our teaching we are lacking. Also, this is the way we assess them, is how the animal are in pain or not. Like this animal which is in pain is not doing anything, silent. And this animal which is in pain but given the analgesic. After surgery we gave analgesic and the animal is trying to make the burrow and all kind of thing. So he's happy. And if the animal, you have done surgery, you have done perfect, but he's in pain. So most of the time researcher comes and the animal, if you give analgesic, they will disturb our experiment. Will not pain disturb your experiment? Will not the pain stimulate how many your cycle or this pathways? So we should think in the way that it is not only the pain or this analgesic that you give that you improve the life of animal, but you are also making the experiment reproducible in farm animal way. You are making the animal produce more. That is good for you, and that is known to farmer very well in most of that case. We are not doing great in that. And when you are in doubt, support the animal. Can we call really ourselves carer when we allow mechanization, complacency, uncritical satisfaction, and self-seeking to perpetuate what is in rational context is cruelty. So we should not be complacent enough and think we have given the animal food, we have given the animal water, what else we want? We don't have food and water for us, and we are providing the animal. This is our duty. So if you are not putting things in the way that animal want, that you are doing another way is cruelty. So my last slide is that, hey human, be humane. And humane is different from human. We all are human, for sure. Yes or no? Yes. And are you humane? No, not many. I have seen that when we even see the people lying on the road, this is the truth. And I have seen this truth very lately. I was coming from back from the airport and met an accident. Hardly anybody cares. So we are human for sure. Humane is one who is compassionate. Compassionate, so there is a sympathy and compassion. Sympathy means you talk about, oh, he is suffering, yaar. Somebody should take it. This is not good and our government is not doing it. Modi is kuch nahi kar raha hai. Arey bhaiya, aap bhi to leke jao. So we are human for sure, but we are not human. Let start from us, not point out others. Let's be human from now onward. Don't mix up. Animal welfare is different from animal protection for veterinarian and ethologists. Necessary is totally different from unnecessary, and you should know how to differentiate what is necessary and unnecessary. Ethics is different from animal welfare. Ethics can be personal. I want to eat chicken, no problem. Welfare cannot be personal. You have to eat chicken, but chicken should be transported, grown up, and well treated throughout. That is not your choice. And compassion and sympathy we have discussed. And this is my institute. We do regular program here only. So this is the one, like I will put your photograph in the next presentation. So we do international course on laboratory animal science, and welfare is a very integral part of that course. Thank you very much.